All right, everybody. How's everybody doing? This is Vlad and Wayne from Gun for Hire. Today, as you can tell, we have a whole bunch of holsters here. We're kind of going to go over what we recommend and what we don't recommend, some of the do's and don'ts, and some of the good points and some of the bad points of certain holsters. Being from law enforcement, we've accumulated so much, and we've tried and tested, and pressure tested so many of these things that we're able to tell you some of the things that have worked for us and some of the things that haven't. So throughout the years, there are certain things that we look out for. There are certain things that could fail you. So we're going to point those things out and give you a better idea as to what you can purchase in order to maybe come and train with us. A lot of times you have to make an initial purchase to show up at a holster draw class. So this will give you a guide, sort of a guide, something to refer to in order to what kind of purchase to make. Wayne?
All right, so let's start with the ones we don't recommend, right? And we'll explain why we don't. Where's that shoulder holster? All right, so the first one that we talk about is a shoulder holster, right? It's just basically a harness that goes around your shoulders. And it's a cross draw, meaning the holster is going to be on the opposite side of your strong hand. So I have to cross my body in order to draw that. Where the reason why that isn't a functional holster for self-defense and there's also a reason why you can't train with it here, is number one, you can't train with it here because the muzzle's pointing rearward. So it'd be pointing towards the range safety officers, so forth, so on. And even in the advanced courses, you'd be sweeping your fellow students as you're drawing that gun out. But practically speaking, the reason why it's not good is because typically events start close in, usually start with a physical altercation. And if I need to draw that when I'm close in with Vlad, and I'll simulate with this gun, so this would be a cross draw. In order to get this, I have to actually pin my hand across my body, basically taking one hand out of the fight, and then try and cross his whole body with that gun, where you could see he could stop that at any point. And even if it didn't get to that where I was drawing it, in a physical altercation, the location of it leads it to where in a grappling type of thing, he's going to feel that gun, right? He's going to feel it, and once he feels it, obviously he's going to latch onto it. Now we're in a fight for a gun, and it's not in a secure, it basically flops around under there. It's not a real secure holster, so we definitely don't recommend the shoulder holster.
So a shoulder holster, for the most part, number one is I would not want to be behind you as you draw that. So we don't allow training from the shoulder holster at all because of those safety concerns. And a lot of people don't realize that the fight isn't always going to be from here to over there. The fight is probably going to be in your face, and you're going to be in a fight prior to even drawing your gun a lot of times. So that close contact, the shoulder holster is probably not going to work.
The next one we talk about is the ankle holster, right? The ankle holster speaks for itself, right? It goes on the ankle. A couple of problems with the ankle holster. Number one, in any kind of fight, movement is survivability. Meaning I need to move, what we call get off the X, because typically I'm going to be behind the 8-ball, right? Meaning that Vlad, if he's the aggressor, has probably started something first. So I need to make an initial movement to get out of the way to access my firearm. The problem with that is on my ankle. So how do I move and access the firearm at the same time? It's really not possible. I basically would have to drop down into a static position where I cease movement, take my eyes off the threat to try and access that gun. Obviously, it's not practical. And it also, in any kind of restaurant or movie theater or anywhere where you're seated and your pant leg comes up, that holster is going to be exposed.
Yeah, if you come to one of our classes and you're wearing an ankle holster, we're probably going to see it from where our vantage point, from where you're sitting, because we'll be able to see your ankles and we'll be able to see that holster is there. Remember, the idea is concealability. You should be able to conceal it correctly, as well as responding to some sort of threat, right? A deadly threat encounter, you're probably going to need to move, and you can't move and draw from your ankle. It's not going to work.
The next one we'll talk about, and both Vlad and I were involved in defensive tactics training within our departments, right, hand-to-hand type stuff, would be a paddle holster, right? So the paddle holster simply it slides between your pant and your body, and that's basically, it's convenient. It's a convenient holster. However, it's easily removed from your body. In a grappling match, we've tested it. We've tested it on the mats, and we've seen actual students that had paddle holsters in class draw their gun out and come out with the thing still attached to their gun, right?
It's crazy how often that
yeah,
happens,
it's
right?
kind of wacky. But so definitely paddle holsters. It's not a danger necessarily to you as far as drawing the gun, but it is a danger to the fact that you could get the gun taken from you in a fight.
If you really look at it, as much as they try to make it to stay in your pants or on your belt line or connected to your belt, these things, as soon as somebody grabs this, it starts to bend, right? And it starts to eventually break, and it comes off your body pretty quickly.
The next thing that we talk about are the Serpa type holsters, certain Black Hawk holsters, Phobos, that have a locking mechanism, which is good, right? You want a locking mechanism. Any outside the waistband holster should have a locking mechanism on it. However, where this is positioned and how it's accessed makes it dangerous, especially under that high stress situation. It's meant to be accessed with the pad of your finger, so that when you press it, your finger comes out onto the gun, onto the slide on the drawer. However, under stress, we typically fall back to the level of what we have the most repetitions in, or what we train the most in. And if you think about it, when you press buttons throughout life, whether it's an elevator button or a button on a computer, it's usually with the tip of your finger. And with this, if I press this with the tip of my finger, it tends to fall now onto the trigger, right? And we've had officers shoot themselves under those high stress situations on the draw with these holsters. So a lot of departments shy away from them, won't allow their officers to carry them anymore, and we don't recommend them in this class.
Yeah, my former department didn't recommend off duty with your families, as well as on duty, as well as plain clothes if you were working undercover, because under stress, man, it's failed, folks. And you know, when these originally came out, they were really cool. I had one. I thought it was really good because it's nice and it's small. It's not something that's huge and bulky under your clothes, and it had a retention. And we mentioned that anything outside your waistband should have a retention. We'll go more into that later, but it wasn't bulky, so it was nice. But eventually, people just went right to the trigger after pushing that button, unfortunately.
Next, when we talk about outside the waistband, also it should be weaved through the belt, right? It shouldn't be like that paddle holster. So you can see this Phobos does have a portion on it that you can weave your belt through, which is good, right? Because at least the holster is locked into your belt. However, the locking mechanism is faulty. The same with this holster, right? This was one of mine back in the day. Your belt weaves through here, that's good. It does have a retention device. However, the retention device is not so good, right? So this gun can easily be defeated. All I have to do is, if I was a bad guy, grab that gun from the front and grip it, and I've defeated that retention device. So you want a good locking mechanism. Anything outside that waistband, you get involved in a physical altercation, it's almost guaranteed that somebody's going to feel that. If they feel it, they're going to grab onto it, so it needs to be locked in there good. So you're looking at something like a thumb lock type of mechanism, something that locks it in there securely, not a little snap, right? No good. The other problem with this one and this one, right, you can see that with the nylon, it collapses on itself, right, after you draw the gun out. You want to be able to reholster that firearm. You want to be able to unholster it and reholster it smoothly. Something collapses, the problem is, how do I reholster it? In a situation where, let's say you come home and your door's kicked in and you hear somebody in a basement, you see them with your stuff, you have your gun drawn out, but now they're unarmed and they're just running out with all your stuff out the back door. Well, what do? You can't shoot them, right? You're not allowed to use deadly force to protect private property, but you can try and restrain them. However, I can't restrain anybody effectively with a gun in my hand, right? It's not going to work. I'm going to be fighting for this gun. Or I may have a negligent discharge, because I may have a sympathetic muscle reaction, meaning when I grab with this hand also clenches, right? And we see that often, unfortunately, sometimes in accidental shootings. All right, so you want to be able to reholster that gun quickly. You don't want something that's going to collapse on itself, and you want a good retention. So basically, what are we talking about? We're talking about a Kydex holster, right? Something that you can get that gun in and out of quickly. The next one, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. Remember these things?
Yeah,
These back in the day were very comfortable, but again, they collapse. Number one is it'll take the shape of your gun, so sometimes your gun will get stuck in there, especially inside the waistband. It'll get stuck, and you'll need two hands, not only for the draw, but you'll need two hands to holster also. So these things are ineffective or less effective than Kydex.
Yeah, so when we start going to inside the waistband, which that is one of them, definitely you're going to need a Kydex, right? Because this, with the pressure of your belt, that's definitely going to collapse. It's going to be almost impossible to quickly get your gun back into the holster. The other part of the problem with the one that he just showed in this one are the retention devices that link up onto the belt. And you should have a good, sturdy belt, right? This is a cheap retention device. Like Vlad said, that suede, this leather kind of molds itself around that gun. With this cheap retention device, you're going to end up pulling the gun and the holster out together. So you want something that's, again, Kydex. Well, not just any Kydex. So if you look at this one, all right, this only has one clip. The retention clip is kind of crappy. With only one clip, what tends to happen is as you move around, that holster and the gun start shifting around under your shirt. Hence, you're going to start printing. You're going to start showing your firearm. It's not a stable thing. You're looking for two good, sturdy clips on anything that's inside the waistband. Vlad and I, most of the instructors here, carry appendix, right? Meaning basically in the front, simply because it's the best way to access that firearm. When you're looking at, this is an appendix holster. This has some good features on it, but it's missing others, right? So the good features on it are two good clips, right? J clips that are going to hook underneath that belt. They are able to adjust the ride height on them, and it has a sidecar. The benefit of a sidecar is you can carry a second magazine and have it oriented correctly on your body. However, you have to understand too, anything under the shirt is now going to have to be re-cleared, right? So if I need that second magazine, now I got to do a one-handed clear to access that second magazine. There are other options to carrying a second magazine that we'll talk about. What are we looking for in a holster?
Well, here's the thing, right? What are you looking to do? What's the need here? So what you're looking to do is get a well-placed round upon a target when you're under attack, when there's a deadly threat in front of you, when you need to respond to that sort of a threat. So if you think about it, right? By the way, guys, all of these are training guns. This is a training cert gun. If you think about it, the ability to clear, get a well-placed round upon a target in under 2 seconds, let's say, which I think that's probably the national standard. So under 2 seconds. If you think about the timing, somebody's going to draw, if somebody draws a firearm against you, you're going to be backpedaling. So the ability to draw, get a well-placed round upon a target is what you're looking for. So we like to start thinking about that 2 second mark, right? And if you're able to achieve it in under 2 seconds, then you're probably going to want to try to do it in under 1.5 seconds. And if you can do it in under 1.5 seconds, then you're probably going to try for a sub-second draw, right? So you have to, your firearm as well as your tools, your equipment needs to be conducive to be able to do that, right? So let's talk about what helps us do that as trainers. So what I'm wearing here that I just drew from is a Tier 1 concealed holster. So in its nomenclature, in its parts, let's talk about what needs to happen. I need to conceal this, right? So this has a claw or a wing. The claw or the wing pushes the belt line forward, therefore now bringing the gun closer to my body, right? Kydex, the gun doesn't go anywhere with Kydex, but it's easy to draw and clip it back in or holster it back in. This has a wedge. So a lot of companies are making these wedges now. This one happens to be from Tier 1 Concealed. It's a foam area so that the plastic itself doesn't dig in. That's probably the biggest complaint in regards to inside the waistband, is that the plastic is digging into my bones or my body, whatever it is. So this kind of makes it a little comfortable. Not only does it make it more comfortable, but as you cinch this with your belt, it conforms to your body, bringing the grip of the gun closer to your body, hence now concealing it a little bit better. Obviously, it needs to fit your firearm, so it should have a cutout for your optics. I like the open bottoms because if I was going to go to a threaded barrel, if I was going to go to some sort of comp, it'll fit using the same holster, and it's easier to clean with an open bottom. The most important thing, though, about inside the waistband is the ability to adjust the ride height of your gun. If you notice, when I cleared and I drew, I was able to get a good grip on my gun right away. That's super important. If I can't do that, if I can't make those adjustments in order to get a good grip right away, I'm gonna be digging for it and I may drop it. It's not gonna be really conducive to getting that at that 2-second good, clear, accurate shot. So that's what you're kind of looking for. You don't have to get Tier 1 Concealed. A lot of manufacturers are making holsters, Kydex holsters now, that have those components in it. So, but you're looking for those components. And I just showed you exactly what they're for and what it creates, right? It creates a holster that you're able to conceal, that you're able to draw quickly from, you're able to put back, meaning reholster quickly, and comfort, right? Everything is going to take a little bit of getting used to. Nothing is at all 100% comfortable because you're adding something to your waistband, right? One of the reasons, let's talk about portation a little bit. So portation matters when it comes to concealment. I never liked, that look of walking around ShopRite, walking around at supermarket with the gun showing, sticking out of your shirt. That's why a lot of law enforcement wore their badge right next to the gun so that if it was spotted, at least people would know right away that they're police officers, right? But now that you can conceal in this state, that could be you, right? So that's one of the reasons why we say outside the waistband, they may see it, right? If you're ordering the bagel in the morning for breakfast, the person that's behind you is probably going to see that. A lot of times it's tough to get something like this, right, to be nice and really tight and sort of disappear under your shirt, especially now. Tomorrow, August 1st tomorrow, so we're in the middle of summer. If it's just a t-shirt, they're probably gonna see that outside the waistband holster. So if they see it, they may go for it. If they grab it, now you're in a fight for your gun. So you definitely want a retention, right? Like we mentioned, I said I would hit on it again. That retention is a must because they may see your firearm. So let's talk about wear, right? Whether it be appendix, whether it be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, small of your back, whatever it is. Think about that 2-second example that I mentioned. If the most comfortable place for my hands is here, right? So it's pretty easy and pretty quick to clear and grab my firearm here. If I start to bring my firearm to the side of my body or to the small of my back, that's going to be, number one, probably telegraphed, right? It's probably going to be more telegraphed because of the motion that I need to do in order to draw that firearm. Not only that, but especially the small of my back, I'm probably going to be pointing at somebody else, pointing at myself before I could point towards my target. So anywhere else besides appendix, once you start to move it to different places, you're probably going to also add time. It's probably going to take you longer, right? And if you think about the fight that we were just talking about, those fights and those wrestling matches a lot of times wind up on the ground. So when somebody is on the ground and you're in a wrestling match, a lot of times you're not going to be able to get to what's on the side of your body because that's the person's mounted on top of you. You're probably not going to get to it. Appendix is more accessible, still accessible. I can go on and on. I mean, we can talk about like being in a vehicle with the seatbelt there. You're probably not going to get to this. It's probably easier to get to this. Even as a lefty, you're up against a door. right? And you're trying to get to your firearm possibly, it's probably not going to work. If I'm going to use one more example, but I couldn't go on. If you're in a fight and you happen to strike somebody in the head, or if he moves and you hit the wall, and now you've hurt your hand or you've broken your hand, now you can't use your strong hand, I can still access my firearm from appendix with my other hand if I need it. Now you're probably not going to get to the one that's in the small of your back at that 4 o'clock position. So we can go on and on about the advantages of appendix, but it's going to be your choice. A lot of people don't like appendix, but just know some of the flaws that happen once you start bringing your holster and your firearm somewhere else, inside or outside.
All right, and we all agree, everybody that carries it here are a former law enforcement, so we carried it outside the waistband for years. Most of the time we carried it in that position. So we've carried it both ways, is what I'm trying to tell you. When we have experience as to where it's more functional, and it's definitely more functional in appendix if you can get away with it. Just getting back to carrying that second magazine, make sure you carry a second magazine, and that magazine should be oriented in such a way that you can access it in the position it should be in for you to get it into that mag well quickly. All right. What I will say is we believe in Murphy's Law around here, so don't tell me that, well, if I can't get it done with 10 rounds and whatever, some kind of nonsense like that. The things happen, all right? Things happen. Be prepared, right? Better to be prepared, better to have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter, man. You can be the best shooter in the world. Murphy's Law takes over. You can over grip and the mag drops. Now you're in motion, and if you don't have another mag, you're probably going to be in a bad situation.
All right, so some other types of holsters. One of them would be
again, mags can come outside the waistband or inside the waistband, however you want to carry these extra mags, or a Neo mag. So I have no ammo on me right now for this presentation, but that Neo mag is what I normally use. It is a magnet that holds my mag correctly where it needs to be, so I can access it, and it's configured exactly the way I would feed my firearm. So that Neo mag works for me. A lot of times you have thanks, bro. So a lot of times you have setups like this that has a sidecar. Again, the sidecar is good too, but just know that you'll have to re-clear in order to get that magazine, right? So there are a lot of things, training, man, you got to train that. And it's a lot easier to access from the Neo mag. Just these, now that I have it in my hand, these holsters with the sidecar though, some of them are really stiff and you can't move them. You would want something with some sort of pivot, something that's going to conform to your body. Like the CNG holsters that we have in our shop that move with the hinge of that mag.
Yeah, and like Vlad said, not only you have to re-clear to access that second mag, but you would have to re-clear with one hand, right? Because your gun's in your other hand. So you got to do a one-handed clear, access it, and place it into the mag well under extreme stress. So just make sure you get your training in. All right, some more exotic type of stuff. Belly bands. All right. Exotic, yeah. This one's a little worn out. This one I wore back in the day. They're good. They have their purpose. All right. The thing I liked about them, if you took a single stack, thin framed firearm, put this on, I can actually tuck this shirt over the top of it. So if I was going someplace that I needed extreme concealability like that, but still be dressed up, that might be an option for me. A little harder to access, right? Because now I got to untuck that shirt when I go to grab it, but at least I have something on me. Maybe a quick walk in the woods with the dog. If I have my gym shorts on and a t-shirt, I don't feel like putting on a pair of jeans with a belt, might be a quick option, a belly band. It is an option. And when we talk about switching guns from one to the other, we're of the belief that at least stick to the same method of operation. I like to stay with the same ergonomics, the same sighting system, the same trigger, same. and train with those, right? Whatever you're going to defend your life with, make sure you train with. So stick to the same platform. Don't go from a 1911 to a Glock 19, right? Two totally different guns. It's just going to confuse you. The next thing, I'm going to bring back the 80s, right? We're bringing back the 80s in 2024.
The fanny pack.
The fanny pack is back, right? However, right, do not just get a regular fanny pack, throw your gun in there with your keys. Don't, if you ladies, don't just throw your gun in a pocketbook. That trigger needs to be covered and concealed. They make things that Vlad does not. He's renamed this from fanny pack to.
I didn't want to call this a fanny pack. I wanted to call this a tactical satchel. So this to me is a tactical satchel. All right, so I do use one of these, especially mostly at the gym, right? Because sometimes when you're at the gym, you get to these crazy positions, and your shirt may ride up, and people may see your firearm. So those are the times when I don't want to deal with any kind of phone calls to the police, and then I have to explain exactly who I am and what I'm doing and my permits, etc., whatever. So I want to avoid all of that. The idea is concealment. So I will wear this with a small framed semi-automatic in my waistband. My shirt's usually over it. It's not really that noticeable, really. It has a little lanyard here so that you can quickly access your firearm. So it works, right? But for the most part, we're not big fans of off-body carry, right? So for ladies, since you mentioned ladies before, for ladies, you're probably gonna look for the same type of stuff. This may work, the belly band may work a little bit better for the females, but if you think about it, there are some flaws to this. When I wear it, it could spin around my body. They can use this strap to drag me down. They can cut the strap, and now off they go with my firearm. There are a lot of things that could happen with this. Also, just know that the idea is concealment, and it should be on your body. If you take this, especially in this state, if you take this and you put this on your passenger side of your vehicle, or if you take this and you hang it, take it off your body and you hang it on a chair or something, now it's no longer a concealed firearm. Now you're probably a felon in this state. So know your laws, right? It's a good idea. Those things are always changing, so stay on top of your firearms laws. This needs to be attached to your body the entire time.
All right, now we'll go into some more tactical type of holsters. In the state of New Jersey, any kind of open carry, security officer type of thing, you need a level 3 holster. Level 3 is going to have a couple of locking mechanisms, right? So this has a hood that you first have to clear, and then it has a thumb brake that you also have to clear, right? So anybody who's doing security where you open carry, you're going to be carrying, you're going to have to wear a level 3 holster. Again, this takes a little bit more training because there's a couple of different ways that you have, things you have to do before you can access that firearm. I would not recommend a drop leg like Vlad has there.
Yeah, so this is from the past, man. I don't know if they still sell these type of things. It's the one size fits all type of holster that drops down like a Han Solo type holster. There are reasons why we had drop downs in emergency services to take the firearm away from the rest of our gear, right? So it was a little bit better, more functional in uniform. This isn't going to be concealed, obviously, right? So, but if you did want to train with it, just know that this is probably not the best. You want something, if you look at the motion here, this is probably made for something with a light. If you want something that's built for your firearm, that can contain your firearm, it's probably not a good idea to get, like a one and done type of a one size fits all type of thing. Unless it's made for your firearm or it retains itself on a certain part of your firearm, whether like this tier 1 concealed, the retention is on the light itself. So anything with a TLR1 is going to stay retained in this. So look for something that's built correctly to retain your firearm.
Yeah, the things I didn't like about the drop legs, one, it would constantly bang into stuff because it was down here. Two, if you were running, that thing would be flopping around. And again, it could get caught on things. And 3, in a physical confrontation, it's not in the best place for you to defend it, right? Again, it's on your leg.
I remember on the job getting in a vehicle, the consoles, especially we have these computers in a police car, so the consoles would get in the way of that drop down, so you'd have to shift it on your leg to be a little bit more comfortable. They're bulky, and again, the idea is concealment for the public here, so you're probably not going to wear something like that.
And the last thing would be the battle belt. Battle belt is good if you're taking our advanced classes, and by the advanced classes I mean where we're doing transition from long gun to handgun. You're going to need a belt, some kind of tactical belt where you can have multiple pouches on there, right, for your AR-15 or whatever long gun you're carrying, and your handgun. This particular one has some extra stuff on it, med kits and stuff like that, also a handheld light. Lights are another, we don't really talk about them all that much, but lights are another thing you should probably have in your person at all time. They make all different size lights, and they're pretty bright these days, even the very small ones. You should consider it even for medical type of emergencies or breaking down with your car. It doesn't have to be a firearms type of incident.
So I guess we can close out, right?
I think we're good.
So in closing, the choice is yours. We've kind of advised you as to what works, what doesn't work. There's a lot to choose from. Numerous manufacturers. These fanny pack or tactical satchels are coming back into style now. We sell them in our shops, as well as some really good holsters. So before you make that purchase to come and start training with us, training is the key. Training is the key. Holster draw, our holster draw class is probably the one where people come to us all the time with things that they'll need to change. I need to change this about the holster. I don't like the way it carries. I don't like the way it's put. I don't like the way I draw from it. It doesn't allow me to get to my firearm quickly, etc., etc. So they wind up making numerous purchases the way that we did throughout the years. So in order to kind of curve that a little bit, we're providing you this video to sort of giving you a little bit of guidance. Maybe you won't have to buy as many, right? One of the biggest things, man, is training. So the only way that you're going to see if this is really working for you, if it has that response that you're looking for, is to pressure test it. So you can get your permit and carry a gun. That is your right. But you're not going to really know if it works efficiently, and it will, you need to put it to the test. You need to pressure test it because it could mean your life. So hope to see you in those training classes, see you on the range. Talk soon. Say bye, Wayne.
Bye.